Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me once again today. My name, as always, is General Confusion, and I'm here with the final four, or, well, the other final three, from Once More Unto the Breach, just to kind of give a wrap-up talk about the game. This was, of course, my first multiplayer game of Dominions 5, and I learned a lot. I had a lot of fun. How about you guys?
Yeah, it was great. Sorry.
It's so weird to hear you speak that intro live, so to speak.
I agree, to be completely honest. Speaking of which,
like
all praise the GRANDBULL.
All praise GRANDBULL.
I'm sorry. I've already managed to forget your question.
I didn't ask
the question, right? Damn it! No,
not yet.
Let's
We'll get there. I just noticed you have I just fired up your last turn, and I was Algulod's last turn, that is, and I'm looking at the expanse of the great empire of Hinnom, which conquered the world. So of course I died turn, what was it, 60 something, 70 something, and
70 something, yeah.
Yeah. After that, I didn't have any idea what was going on in the game. I am, as I think I said yesterday when we were talking about this, I am a little surprised to notice that my AI counterpart actually lived, and in fact still has some Buddhas left.
No one ever bothered to wipe them out. Simple as that.
Yeah, I was thinking about, you know, two terrifying late-game blood nations that were just destroying my nation. Those poor people. That's
fair. I do notice that you seem to have been largely replaced with Berytos by the end here.
Yeah, no, he chewed me up. I failed my second objective. First objective was taking the throne. Second objective was trying to stop the immortal production, which failed. And you got to see that, I believe.
I got to see some of that. I got to see the battle in Berytos and a few other battles where the Vampire Lords and the Wraith Lords were really coming out in force.
Yeah.
Yeah. A few Worm that walks as well.
Just a few.
Yeah. I noticed. Jesus, though. Immortal units seem to be a very powerful endgame. I didn't even think about Worm that walks. And I slapped myself in the forehead so hard when I realized I had immortals I could have been using.
Yeah. Yeah, this is my first time really going the Mass Immortals strategy. I've heard about it from Something Awful's meta, and I tried it out. This was their first time really doing vampires in mass production, and I was very impressed. I wish I switched to vampires earlier in the game.
I certainly agree.
I used to spam Immortals back in Dominions 4, but of course then all Immortals were Dominion Immortal, as opposed to the everywhere Immortal that they are now.
Right.
In the beta test, and yeah, in case the viewers aren't aware, I was in the closed beta test. In the closed beta test, there was a multiplayer game where I was playing Lemuria, and that's probably my only real experience with Immortals, relying on Immortals so far in Dominions 5. Here, near the end of the game of Once More Unto the Breach, I did field a fair number of liches and worms that walk, but they would have been a really big part of my strategy. I could have been using mound fields instead, for all intents and purposes.
Yeah, I did notice that you had leaned heavily on the mound fiend strategy. You also,
course, but not for combat purposes.
Also, you got where were you getting these enchantresses from?
There's a couple of provinces. One's the Bog of Vold at 30. The other is the Bog of Beasts at 29.
Ah, and you had a, yeah, you just had the sites to recruit them. Gotcha. Yeah, because those Nature 3 sorceresses that I noticed in your, or even higher, that I noticed in your lines were doing some pretty good work as well.
Yeah, a bit fragile for my tastes.
Yeah, well, you're used to giants. So, let's kind of go back and talk about the earlier game a little bit. So what was because what I'm most interested to kind of talk about is how did we get to that situation in the end game? Because, okay, so from my perspective, around about turn maybe 45 or 50, I was looking at the map and going, well, I think I've probably lost this. And it wasn't necessarily that I had made like a singular huge mistake, but rather that I simply hadn't grown as much as I needed to in order to compete with what the competition was at that phase of the game. Which was why I tried to enact my throne rush there and got whipped on.
It was very well done, though. It was very well done. You failed by a sliver there. You could have very easily won.
One turn and I would have made it.
Yeah, if you'd attacked 2 turns later and say Berytos was attacking me, you would have won, almost certainly.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's something I think would have happened in pretty short order if it wasn't for your whole throne rush. I think, of course, I can't confirm this. We have GreatGrayShrike here who can. Were you about to attack me around that time?
I honestly was thinking about it. I was basically contemplating my own throne rush as well, but I was basically trying to get to the number of thrones I would need to win would be very hard from my starting position. Like the way the thrones were positioned for me, it was very difficult for me to actually enact a throne rush. I was trying to put something together, but then...
Yeah, you kind of started in a tiny choke point. You didn't expand out in all directions. You only had 2 to start with, really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you only had 1 throne near you in the Raspberry Woods.
Yeah.
So in terms of... to be honest, I think that was one thing that threw me a little bit, because I looked at the map once I figured out where Berytos was, and I was like, oh, GreatGrayShrike probably isn't immediate competition because he only has 1 throne available. And so...
Yeah.
It's not likely that he's going to be able to go for the win, and I think that was a mistake, because what I should have done was I should have gotten Kronos together, and we should have tried to kill you.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's something I should have been noticed more, actually, on my part, because I have a certain tendency to almost forget the thrones, and that's kind of in this show. So that's why I was always focused so much on Berytos, because Berytos, scariest nation in this particular game, no doubt about it. Well, that is in terms of capabilities. Hinnom comes close in the end game, but I still think Berytos has some edge, simply because their blood magic is so much cheaper and more efficient.
Right.
Yeah. I see your point on that.
Yeah, Hinnom can't exactly spam demons the way Berytos can.
Yeah.
Well, I could have kind of killed near the end of the game there, but my income dropped by about 2,000 because I was spamming all this Kohan, and they are not efficient. And I may have been gathering around 150 slaves a turn. If I were Berytos, I would be expecting to gather 300 slaves per turn by now, and much more cheaply at that.
Right, and that would have just translated directly. Well, as we saw, it did translate directly into... Am I wrong in saying literally hundreds of storm demons?
No, not at all. Well, not in one place. They were usually a bit more scattered than that.
Yeah. I also lost a bunch of them having to shuttle them around with Stygian Paths. I lost probably like 50 storm demons just dying in the Stygian Paths. It was not a fun time.
My heart pumps peanut
That
butter.
sounds awful.
Well, yeah, but Stygian Path seems still worth it.
Yeah, it is worth it. It's just that I did take a bunch of attrition doing that.
Yeah.
This is probably the first game I've actually seen it extensively used. You usually don't have generals and the demons needed to use it effectively.
Yeah.
And even if you can, well, there's all the usual downsides, and Stygian Paths only transports 1 mage at most.
It also
and
needs everybody he
yeah.
can lead. So if you're casting a big death spell, if you've got a big death mage, he's going to be able to lead a lot of demons.
Yeah, but I usually disregard many of those mass army teleport spells because you need to bring a lot of mages to a serious fight, and so either you don't and hope you can bring in reinforcements in time, or you do, and to do that you have to teleport a bunch of other mages as well, and that tends to get really expensive, and not many nations can manage it.
I'll be honest. That was one of the reasons why I wasn't thinking of that really, because like when I saw that army drop on me on Kasevik Highlands, I went through and I tried to count up the gem expenditure involved, and oof, It was
Yeah,
what?
it hurt.
It was what,
Yeah.
40 gems just to move everybody, and then another 80 or 90 on the mages?
The high gem frequency, sight frequency in the -5 really shows itself there, I think, because that's a lot of gems.
Yeah, a lot of them were air gems, and I did have the air gem generating global up at that time.
Right.
Appropriately acronym GG.
Also, I'm looking at your turn 78 Algulod, and I'm looking at your gem income, and what the fuck? Sorry, I just you're like over 30 in everything.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I can search to 2 in 5 paths natively. And early on I got water mages, and then I got death mages, and then I got, well, yeah.
Yeah, your gem income is almost 200.
Yeah, I had the highest gem income there, I think. Let me just check the graphs. Yeah, I had the, well, I didn't have the highest gem income until the very end of the game, but on the other hand, I didn't have globals either.
Right.
Yeah, I was thinking, I believe that was technically me for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Let me double check.
Yeah, you were in the lead for most of the game, actually, past the halfway point or so.
Yeah.
I only overtook you in the last, let's see, that's around the last 7 turns or so I passed you by, I think.
Yeah.
That's more gems than I ever considered having without globals.
Yeah, it's a really impressive number. Like, I didn't lack for anything. So...
I can see that you cast a lot of remote site searching spells, because you're searched up to 9 in like 3 or 4 paths.
I'm a very lazy person. Let me just put it like that. I'm a very lazy person. With water magic, it made sense because I only had 3 water mages for much of the game, and they were from a random event. Of course, I later got the sorceresses, but they aren't very good or reliable water mages.
Right.
Yeah. Speaking of random event, one of the funnier things that ended up happening is I randomly got a staff of elemental might, and that's what allowed me to get Earthwell, Deepwell.
I was so mad when you cast Earthblood Deepwell.
I can one up that story because I got a robe of the Magi from a random event.
Oh my god!
Do you know what I did with it?
You
You know what I did with it?
You gotta tell me now.
Yeah, you see Province 57, Moliton? It's one of the thrones near my capital. When when Confusion throne rushed me, and I knew GGS was going to help me out, but before I knew that, I prepared a defense for all my thrones as best as I could with the fact that all their gates had been broken down. And I had like 20 mages in Moliton, and maybe some random Massacre and Enkidu slaves. And I kind of got desperate, so I put the Robot Magi on one of the army there and had him cast Firestorm or something like that. It didn't accomplish much. So basically I just gave it away to Confusion.
And then I used it to cast Burden of Time.
And you lost it when I took your throne.
Yes.
I'm really sad I didn't get it.
I'm surprised that you didn't pick it up.
I don't know what my troops were thinking. It was just like, more Magi, it's just tatters now.
I had to forge all my own boosters. It was terrible.
So
hey, it's not quite as bad as trading. Trading's usually not the most efficient way to get items.
you got to do what you got to do sometimes.
You're right.
Yeah, like check your province 112 Confusion. Did you see that army near the top?
Which one?
Sayakinibal.
Yes, I do.
That stands for Perpetual Storm because I named that in a period of time when I was still quite afraid that Berytos was going to attack me with sailing.
Jesus, he's Air 4.
Yeah. That's 2 empowerments.
Wow.
Yeah. And I used that to make air helmets, and then I used those to make Bag's Bear, and then I used these things to make Staffs of Storms, which I think I made very good use of throughout the rest of the game.
Yeah,
it was very expensive, and it's another thing I think with how more common gems are in Dominions 5, but with default settings anyway, because I'm not sure that would have been possible in Dominions 4 with the regular settings. That's a lot of gems.
Yeah, but I mean, you had a lot of gems this game. That's impressive.
Yeah.
I personally took the Air 4 on my god, so I didn't have to empower. Basically, with Air 4 on Berytos' god, you basically can get to anywhere else you need to be because you can make all the elemental mastery staffs and stuff with Berytos because of the way their paths are set up.
Yeah, I noticed that you took a Titan. What was the were you just doing that for magic diversity, or?
Yeah, a Nectar of Chaos.
I took the Titan because I needed both death and air. I wanted the death for undead leadership so I could actually lead my demons without having to summon specifically the demon lords or whatever, or the ice devils or whatever, in order to actually lead my demon armies. Because otherwise my undead leadership is like 5 or 10 at most. It's terrible. And then, so I took undead leadership, and I also took air magic so that I could make all the boosters that I wanted to get everywhere in diversity. And then I just had the random point of fire magic on that Year of Chaos, which gave me the fire death crosspath booster there.
Right.
So that was a nice little bonus.
Can't a Queen wait? Can't those make a robe of the Magi if you give them an air booster or two? Am I mistaken?
I could eventually get there with Telkines or the heroes, but heroes is basically luck if you get them or not, and Telkines is...
I mean just the regular Queens in Waiting.
Oh, the brides? Oh, the bride?
No, brides. Yes. Sorry.
The brides come with up to Air 3. They can get a 10% random and 100% random lined up to give them Air 4, but that's like a 1% chance. So realistically, you're not going to have that happen that often.
No, but in this case, I meant you could give an air booster to one of those brides, and then you're pretty close to having a robot major right there and then, aren't you?
Yeah, you are.
Because those are F5, but 5 now, aren't they?
You can either empower or you could empower an air and go from there possibly, but I just took the air on my god because that way I didn't have to worry about whether I'd get enough air gems, and if I was using the air gems on other things, like I cast a lot of hawks for patrollers, for example, and stuff.
Right.
Yeah, I saw that. You did that fairly early in the game too.
I think that, honestly, I did that too early because I had a bunch of blood save income before I actually had any blood research, so I forged like 15 soul contracts because I had nothing else to do with the slaves.
I noticed that you had a lot of devils.
Not a very typical Berytos thing to have.
Yeah, but I had literally no blood research, and I had like about 100 slaves coming in a turn, so around like turn 28, I started forging slave contracts, and I stopped around turn 40 or so. I made about 15 slave contracts, and each of them, over the course of the game, they gave me about 40 devils each, so it wasn't terrible because almost all of them lasted till the end of the game. I think I only had one of them lost to horrors before the corruption that happens at the end of the game.
I keep telling people soul contracts are still worth it, and they don't believe me.
Honestly, I thought they were worth it.
Honestly, at 90 blood slaves, I think, looking back at what actually happened in the game with my early war against Tianqi, if I had that number of slaves turned into actual devils and storm demons, I would have probably crushed Tianqi much faster instead of having a slow grinding war like actually happened, which would probably have been better for me than having the soul contracts. So overall, it was probably still a mistake to make them.
Well, that's fair. Though, I mean, props to Herdalas. As I was saying the other day, he fought very, very well.
Oh yeah, he did extremely well.
Agreed. He deserves compliments.
I didn't see any of that, but TNG versus Berytos, not a matchup that usually ends well.
Yeah.
Also, TNG was fighting Yomi at the same time.
Yeah, I remember that. That's not grapes should be. And speaking of which, Yomi also did much better than I expected.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Yomi was amazing.
I pretty much expected him to be dead after about turn 20.
Honestly,
I expected them to be a speed bump, but they made very good use of the Shadow Blast, and I don't remember much of what else they did, but
It was
But
basically
those-
Shadow Blast. It was pretty much just Shadow Blast.
Shadow Blast the horde's chaff. It was
Yep.
very impressive.
So-
Agreed.
So, GreatGrayShrike, if you could, real quick, just walk me through your early game, because I didn't get to see much of what was going on over there. I was, busy in my little patch of forest and fighting Pangea. So, you took a dormant Titan?
Imprisoned.
You took an imprisoned... Oh, God. So, you decided to just roll the dice and take an
Scales.
imprisoned Titan.
Scales and the Nether of Chaos at Air 4, Death 4, Fire 1. So mostly Scales. I was mostly relying on elephants in the early game.
I mean, if you're taking a Titan, you're not going to rely on it for anything early on, so you might as well take it in prison.
That's what I figured. So basically, I was using that. I actually basically rushed research with my Grecian sages. I recruited a bunch of Grecian sages fairly early on, and I got basically early on I got the elementals. With Berytos, you have all the elementals, and then I also got Thunderstrike. So I was, by the time year 2 rolled around, I had both Thunderstrike and the elementals online. So I was looking pretty good, like by the end of year 2. But if people had rushed me before that point, it would have been mostly elephants versus whatever they were doing. So it would have probably not been great for me. But luckily that didn't happen.
Yeah, I was about to
Yeah.
say, going imprisoned anything as Berytos is always a huge gamble, because, there was always the possibility you were going to land next to somebody who would just rush you immediately.
Yeah, to be fair,
I was considering it because Berytos is very nasty in the late game, so I was considering it. But GreatGrayShrike, I have great respect for you as a player, and I figured you would have something very nasty waiting for me if I did. So
I was. I'm not sure how well it would have worked out for you. Basically, just based on the geography of how things were there, you would have had to come up through.
Yeah, that was another factor. You are kind of far away, so
yeah.
Yeah.
There's this irritating choke point. I remember considering that when I was thinking about rushing you, because that's
I also had a lot of, because of my good scales, I also had it like 4 or 5 forts up by the end of year 2. So people rushing me would have had to deal with the fact that I was from 4 or 5 forts producing mages, and it would have been, they'd have to siege each one of them down individually. So it would have been very annoying at that point in the game, I think.
Right.
Your scales are much better than I would have expected, but you got almost perfect scales, just a point short of magic and a couple extra points in heat.
Yeah. One other thing I wanted to mention, apropos of nothing, I had a Library of Time. I think that it was originally discovered by TNG's player, but I took it from him.
Mm-hmm.
And that gave me, I had the Shadow Seers. So basically that was Astral 3, along with everything else going on.
Right.
So I was the one who dispelled the Eternal Pyre and the Burden of Time.
I assumed that it was you that was dispelling them, to be honest.
I thought you assumed it was me at first.
I wondered about it being you, and I mentioned that, but overall, I came to the conclusion that neither of those things hurt you very much.
Yeah.
It wasn't like you were in competition for fire gems anyway, and in terms of Burden of Time, since is giants, and most of their stuff isn't old, and you had Gift of Health up for most of the time, you didn't, I would have assumed you didn't really care much about Burden of Time. So
honestly, I was like, please hurt the other players.
Yeah, Burden of Time was basically going to hurt Berytos and nobody else at that point.
Yeah, it was not so much fun, so yeah, I took it down a few times.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
I was about to ask you, Kronos, actually. So talk about your early game a little bit. So we saw Berytos' strategy was the daring imprisoned Titan and just relying on scales to get big fast enough to stop people from attacking them. You were up here on this peninsula, and you and I went in against Pangea fairly early.
Honestly, my early game was an Awake Expander, as you saw, the White Bull. I was just trying to get a solid start. I wasn't confident in Ur's ability to expand fast because I'm so used to Turnanog, who I'm used to just being able to be like 10 Tuatha, just go take that province. Heavy cavalry, I don't care, just go. But eventually, the nice thing about having an Awake Expander pretender is you can actually afford to like go, okay, expand twice with my white bull, then send out the party. That way you didn't really have to stop with that one. And Fortitude's a fine enough bless for the Urgard.
Mm-hmm.
And the Mashushu. Eventually, though, honestly, when Pangea came around and we were discussing about attacking him, I didn't even do magics. I literally just relied on my fortitude, and well, it was 2-on-1. Fortitude's also really good, and my people were relatively comparable to the white centaurs. And honestly, I knew eventually I was just going to bring my bull in and stomp his face. But he was a very new player as well. There was a certain event that General Confusion didn't actually see, where Pangea sallied out with his pretender, but it didn't have enough support and didn't have any magics to go for the early buffs. Again, new player, I'm not trying to diss you, but it ended up dying.
Oh, okay.
Then I was just like, well, it's over.
Yeah, I had wondered a little bit.
Yeah, that's pretty rough.
Yeah.
I almost felt bad, but that's the game.
Yeah, it happened.
I have to say though, you had a very good starting position. Of course, the capital itself is kind of crappily located, but
yes,
in strategic terms, you got undisputed access to water, and we have got no water nations, so you are the only one who can really use it aside from Agartha, but Agartha was too far away to really...
Agartha was fighting me eventually on the water.
Well, yeah, but you were much closer.
Yes, I was.
For some reason, people let me have like 3 water provinces for like almost the entire game before anybody took them back from me. I don't understand why I was able to take them with Merman and nobody fought me for them, but I was very happy with them.
Honestly, I just didn't get there in time. I was being very slow about the water thing because I was confident I wouldn't have competition until Agartha showed up, and I was like, God. And then I saw you, I was like, are you kidding? I already had Nate with you by then, so I was just like, yeah, God damn it.
Of course,
yeah,
Agartha wasn't...
Sorry.
No, my apologies, but the thing with Agartha is they didn't have a very good defensible position compared to you. You're on this peninsula. Of course, it's a fairly poor peninsula resource-wise and gold-wise, but it's a very, very predictable and defensively suited location. I've experienced events like that I've had starts like that in Dominion Store, and you can usually pull off a surprisingly good game, even if you don't have much, as long as you have that easily defendable position.
Yeah, because 177 and 158 guard pretty much all the access except for 142, which is a terrible swamp. So,
yep. Honestly, it's kind of why I suspect I didn't end up going into a lot of defensive wars. Because Agartha was, I think, the only defensive war I was ever attacked with, and he had to go through water. And honestly, it was essentially us playing footsies, because he never came to my land because I had everything I needed to crush his forces on my capital. That was the only thing I was afraid of. And I was expecting land raids as well, but I was ready to destroy those as well. So essentially, it was just his forces going around and me having a raiding party taking what he takes or taking places he didn't have. And eventually, I just told him, look, dude, there's no point to this. Go defend your territory, because Hinnom is currently just destroying you. I even made a really nice deal. I let him keep, I think, I just made it a status quo thing where he got to keep, we all kept our original territories, and then if he gave me gold, I allowed him passage. So eventually he sent his forces up to Hinnom's territory, and honestly, it was just, the only thing I could think of in my mind is like, I know you were worried about Mother Oak because that was the reason he went to the war in the first place, but it was so pointless. And that was my thoughts along the lines.
Yeah, it wasn't ever going to work out for Agartha to fight you while also having to defend himself. And pretty much no matter what happened, he was going to have to defend himself on land. Because at that point in the game, I think Niflheim had just gone AI, and there was me there and Hinnom pushing on him. So
yeah, honestly, Niflheim didn't go AI. Where I'm pretty sure all of us agree, GGS would have won.
I don't know.
Well, the game was such a
maybe not one, but I like me and General Confusion. I'm pretty sure he would have attacked us if we were having trouble taking his territories. What do you think?
Yeah, I actually wanted to ask about that because, from my perspective, Niflheim going AI immediately upon being attacked was probably like one of the turning points of the game. I mean, that was what allowed me to get as far as I did. The fact that I was able to push up into Niflheim's territory and take so much relatively cheaply, even when there was a ton of stuff.
Sorry, what?
That helped everybody that was a neighbor to Niflheim. Everybody that actually had a border with Niflheim got a big advantage from that, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I didn't attack them so much early on because at first I didn't even realize it had happened, and after it did, I still felt I don't know. I didn't want to. Well, even an AI Niflheim can be a pretty annoying opponent to fight, and I think I was still fighting Agartha at that stage. Eventually, I figured out that Agartha's capital is nearer to me through Niflheim's territory than it is through my own and the Rus's form territory. So I decided to just trump through, take a couple of forts, and hit Agartha from the north. And I felt the need to do that as quickly as possible because I felt that Berytos was about to attack me any turn at that point. I really wanted to be done with Agartha before that happened, so I went for a decapitation strike through Niflheim territory.
Right. Yeah, I was... It was interesting to me because, I mean, as I've expressed, I don't know, like, GreatGrayShrike, you may not have noticed, there was a fort in Niflheim that I never managed to take. Because it had, like, 15 gigas stacked up inside it.
Yeah, there was that. I think I saw that in one of your some of your stuff. It was pretty hilarious. The hordes of skeletons are just too strong.
Too many skeletons.
Yeah. I mean, I had issues with that. I actually got my initial forces wiped because I didn't realize they for some reason I forgot they had snow move and they could move 2 spaces. So I moved away from their forces and they jumped their capital and essentially caught me with my pants down and wiped it. And that was depressing. Honestly, that was embarrassing. I'm so glad you didn't actually see that.
One other thing, I'm not sure that General Confusion caught, the start of the Tianchi versus Berytos war. I kicked it off by sending seeking arrows at. They had a Frostfather with their quickness. It was like their air shield plus, and I shot their Frostfather down.
There's so many people who forget about Incarnate Specialists going offline if you just kill the pretender.
So they lost their air shield.
Yeah, that's a very good thing to do. Very good.
Yeah, and that's
Does shield block that spell? I've been curious about this.
I don't think it does. They lost their Frostfather to 2 seeking arrows.
Yeah, I don't believe it does.
I actually did. Well, okay.
Is this why McCone doesn't worship humans?
Good luck shooting a seeking arrow into this giant statue. But yeah, that war. When you attacked Tianchi, I was just finishing up absorbing Mictlan, and I strongly considered joining up with Tianchi to fight Berytos, but basically I was too scared of Berytos already at that point. So I was like, well, I should just let that happen while I figure out what I might be able to do to make a play for winning the game.
Yeah.
Honestly, that wasn't a bad decision on your part because the war between me and Tianchi was surprisingly even matched. Tianchi was larger by virtue of their better expansion with their sacreds. They started off with their a fairly strong bless for their those dual wielding sacreds of theirs, whatever they're called.
Warriors of the 5 elements.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, that's it. And they were fairly large, so the war against me against them with Yomi on the side as well was surprisingly even for a long time there. So letting us fight while you did other things makes a lot of sense from your perspective, I think.
Yeah, that was kind of my feeling about it. I didn't want to get mixed up in that whole mess. I was too busy spending all my earth gems forging gate cleavers.
Yeah, you really surprised me with that move. I knew that attacking me and taking my thrones while I was distracted by something else was about the only thing you could do to win the game. Because you were, let's be real here, you weren't going to beat Berytos in a straight fight.
No.
You weren't going to beat Ur in a straight fight. And you absolutely weren't going to beat me in a straight fight. So, like, what the hell were you going to do? Well, I tried the best I could to redirect your attention to Berytos because, well, I guess it helps that I myself was a bit focused on the whole conquest mindset of because I tend to forget the thrones, so I assume other people can do that as well. So I figured I'd draw your attention to Berytos. Look, here's Berytos. It's the scariest nation in the game. It's played by GreatGrayShrike. We should beat him up. I will help you beat him up. How much do you need any money? Do you need any gems or items? I'm not sure if I actually offered that, but let's say for the sake of argument I did. Because and in the eventuality that you did attack me, I didn't expect it to have any effect because I had upgraded my forts. I had staffed them with Enkidu slaves and Massachem, and Hinnom's forts are actually very tough.
Right.
That's the benefit of that's one benefit to get in exchange for being more expensive. They have thicker walls, twice the wall integrity of normal fortresses, or something like that. And normally, you don't see armies capable of taking down 500 wall integrity in one turn, much less 750 or whatever.
No, normally you don't. And that was why, if I hadn't done that, I probably could have gotten hold of Earthblood Deepwell myself, and I wondered if strategically that was a better idea, but I was kind of already committed at that point.
Yeah, I kind of assumed that... I assumed you might be heading for my thrones, but I assumed that if you did, I'd be able to push you off before you were able to do anything, because, again, my forts were very strong, and my armies were much better than yours.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a pure hypothetical at that point, but it turned out to be true, so, so I was kind of hoping you'd attack, actually, because then I'd have a perfectly valid cast spell. I'd wipe out your attacking forces, I'd eat you, if it cost me nothing. Easy. Then, of course, you had... I don't want to know how many gems of Earth Cleavers that was. 150, 200?
Something... It was
ridiculous.
It was well over 100.
Yeah, because I really, really did not expect that. And you have my utmost respect for pulling that off, because you came so close to winning there, even though you're hopelessly outmatched.
Yeah.
So kudos.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
That was really impressive. That rush for the thrones. It was, as you said, just one turn away from working.
Yeah,
Honestly, I thought I was ready to lose right there.
That last turn, I was sitting there looking between Stonegrave Mountains and Moloton, going, "Oh God, how do I keep Stonegrave Mountains? I just need to keep it for one turn." And you know what got me? I'm sure you've watched it in the videos. I had 3 Buddhas coming in who were ready to just lay down magma eruptions on those storm demons in an effort to reduce your siege strength enough that you couldn't break the fort, which was all I needed. And unfortunately, it turns out that you cannot sneak and attack your own province.
I'm not sure that's true, because I believe it's a special option if you hit space, but I believe there is a move and patrol option.
Not when you're sneaking.
Can't you just move and attack, or does that attack the province you're currently in?
It doesn't do anything. You can sneak and attack, but you can't move and patrol. And if you sneak and attack into your own province, they just hide. That's what happened when you rolled in. And I had like GGS when I had like 60 province defense there. That was because I was planning on using them as chaff for my Buddhas who were coming in to throw damage spells at your storm demons. But they moved into the province and just sat there. They didn't fight.
Yeah, it turned out that you lost the Pacific Islands anyways, but
yeah.
Are you sure you can't sneak an attack to a friendly province? Because I'm clicking at the scout in Niflheim right now, and I'm sneaking and attacking to Bluemo's Forest.
You can do it, but it doesn't do anything. They just sneak into the province and hide.
Oh.
That's what I did. I was coming from... I had Buddhas coming from Burman Highs into Stonegrave Mountains from 24 into 13. And since it was owned by Berytos, I had to sneak in, and I tried giving them the sneak and attack order in the hope that it would make them patrol, but it did not.
I mean, I'm not sure it would have changed anything, but...
Well, it would have... I mean, to be fair, I was not expecting there to be fucking 6 Melkarts there. but... I mean, like I said, the goal was just... It was a I hadn't had time to upgrade that for it. It was a palisade. So I was doing math, and I was like, if I can kill half of his storm demons, I'll reduce his siege strength to like 94, and he won't be able to break the fort in one turn. And the timing was so close that all I needed was for that fort to be unbroken for one turn and to win in Kasevik Highlands and Moloton. And if I'd done that, I would have just won because of the way the turn order is. But unfortunately, I got Stygian Path in Kasevik Highlands, and my Buddhas didn't fight in Stonegrave Mountains. So I actually lost in 2 ways on that turn.
Yeah.
But at least I took Moloton, right? That was my high water mark.
Yeah.
I believe there was some question Agalad had about the last war between me and Berytos. We wanted to hear your perspective as on the Great GGS.
Sure. My perspective was basically if I lost my capital and my immortals and my demon spawning and everything, I would basically be incapable of prosecuting wars very effectively at that point. So I had to keep my capital, and you were pushing into it.
Well, that was what I was thinking too.
The actual wars were extremely bad for me, mostly because I was trying to, whenever I actually pushed you out of my land, then I was fighting in your like Dominion 9 or 10 Gift of Health against your guys, and they all were like tanky enough that it was almost impossible to kill them efficiently.
Yeah.
And then I just constantly tried to push you out and to take over stuff and try to take that one throne back. Even if I held that one throne, it wouldn't have really mattered because I wasn't really near a throne victory. I eventually figured that out and decided that I'd just abandon trying to siege that down because you had filled it with so much chaff I couldn't really siege it down effectively. But overall, at that point, I had spent a lot of blood slaves being sacrificed to try to create temple checks and spending a lot of gold on temples, and overall I had to try to push your dominion away because you had temples in all the water provinces around me, and also in a lot of the other provinces around me, and I was very little dominion.
Yep. That's why I wanted to hold the water.
Oh, that's where all the temples were. How did I not notice?
Yeah, if you
Oh.
I'm still looking at your turn 78, and you can see 5 temples in the water on your shores.
Well, clearly Hinnom could see, but I could not, obviously. Jesus.
My water gem income was very poor this game, so I couldn't really do much except like I couldn't really build many like goblets or whatever in order to get actual effective forces underwater, so I really didn't want to try to fight underwater all that much.
No.
But yes, you honestly have a good read on what I was trying to achieve. Obviously, I technically did achieve my first objective, as I mentioned before, take the thrones, which I was frankly shocked I succeeded.
You did really well in that war. I mean, I don't know the details, but you fought Berytos. You did very well. You held out. There were times when you had the upper hand. Something slow.
Afterwards,
Well.
my second objective was, as he said, if I took his capital, all his godforsaken, unholy, evil bastards of an immortal force would fall with it. Because if you take out the province that they were made, they die permanently when they next die, as long as you keep it held.
I think
That's
for
why you summon them outside of the capital, by the way.
I think for a while there that was actually bugged, so that when they respawned under the control of whoever controlled the capital.
Really?
That was
that would have been funny. Huh?
Wow.
Yeah, that was a bug for a little while. I think they fixed it very fast.
Yeah, but
yeah, that's kind of a big deal.
But regardless, that objective ended up failing. I had a third, and I was hoping you didn't necessarily notice objective out, if you will. And that is actually, I was attempting to dom kill you, and I'm sure you really did notice. And honestly, I think that helped me. That gave me two benefits too. Gift of health became much stronger. My god became stronger, and it would force you to act against it. And I was hoping, well, it did help me in the end. It just wasn't enough.
Yeah, it was really painful trying. I had a huge amount of gold tied up in upkeep for my mages and such, and overall the amount of gold I could spend building temples was very limited with everything going on. I also didn't have a lot of my core provinces were depopulated from doing way too much blood hunting in them, so I didn't have the greatest gold income from my core provinces, even with my scales.
I see.
There are some pretty significant hidden costs associated with blood magic.
Yeah, looking through your provinces around your capital, like there aren't many that are still over 5,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although Berytos itself had a population of about 40,000, though.
Yeah, but I'm not going to blood hunt that. I also had the that spell that increases your coastal province income by 25% there and stuff. So that was my gold farm.
Yeah, because this Berytos has an income of like 640.
Nice.
Yeah, they have that national bonus at coastal.
They have a bonus, and there's also that one spell in air magic that's trade winds or whatever that gives you a boost.
Trade winds. I had that cast on 3 of my coastal provinces, all the forted ones, and that helped a fair bit. None of them were individually as wealthy as Berytos, so but it still helped a lot back when I had that up.
Can I also just say, totally unrelated, that it gives me a small amount of joy to see that the one random war elephant that routed like turn 15 and I never picked up is still alive in World's Teeth Mountains?
Honestly, I made it a mission to keep him alive after a while.
Just the lone mountain war elephant.
There'll be legends about him in the future. Anyway. Sorry.
Go ahead. I was just going to say that I had one commander left over from he was like my second or third commander that I'd ever recruited from expansion, and he had like 5 injuries, and he was still alive and just sort of hanging out, sailing up and down the coast, ferrying troops around.
I'm going to depress you guys now because I'm looking closely at this sprite with war elephant, and the guy at the front, he's holding a hammer and a spike planted to the head of the elephant.
Shh. Hush. Hush you. The Elephant Clan are our friends. I actually, but yeah, speaking of that, my original prophet, my very first Rhino Clan commander, lived all the way through the game until he was killed in Kasevik Islands. Actually, no, he wasn't even... Actually, he wasn't even killed in Kasevik Islands, because I had a shade mail on him. He retreated. I think he might have been killed in that final battle in the Two Woods.
I'm not even sure where my first prophet died. I named him Prophet, and I really don't know when or where he died. And he survived for about 60 turns, and I think I named my next prophet as well, when I finally bothered to make one.
That sounds likely. Also, just out of curiosity, how the hell did an ancient lord get into the Hall of Fame, which is otherwise just Melkart, Telkine?
That's a very good question.
There's also a soulless giant there with 184 kills. I think. Oh, I see what it is. You
That was a Melkart, yeah.
Yeah, you cast Life After Death on a Melkart.
I think that one used to be Shrikes, actually. I'm not sure.
It's got your flag on it.
Yeah, but I stole one of Shrike's Melkarts, and he was... I think that might be that one. Yeah, that was off script because my mage first castings failed at that point, and they got lucky, I guess. No, it must have been a charm spell because I got him as a commander. So it must have been one of my enchantresses, probably, which cast it.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine what would have happened is you probably must have mind controlled him somewhere and then cast Life After Death.
I know that one is Shrikes because he focused way more on the thugging than I ever did. And I know I got Hall of Fame Melkart from him, and that one had way more kills than any of my other guys. I remember that much. Oh, no, wait, never mind. It's Thanos, which was Shrikes, so I don't know who Amarapi is.
I thought Amarapi was one of yours, because I remember Chelby's and Amarapi were... I saw them moving around. Because Chelby's was your other one that was, like, leading your armies against Agartha.
Yeah, but then I have no idea how Amarapi got all those kills, because my thugs weren't as good as Shrikes, honestly. I have no idea how he got all those kills.
I don't know, man. I don't know. It's just funny that I'm just looking at the Hall of Fame, and it's just like completely dominated by Melkarts, except with one zombie, one Telkine, one mercenary, an Avite commander, a vampire, and then a random ancient lord.
Sabdi has got to be my starting commander, I'm guessing. Those are usually ones that accumulate stars without doing anything. And
yeah, I mean, he's got...
That's enough sometimes.
203 experience, though. Pretty good.
There was that, as far as kills go, that one Air Queen that you eventually stole from me was crazy with the kills from that storm and that Wrathful Skies, that one battle at the end there. Did she make it into the Hall of Fame in the end? I don't think they can they? I'm not sure.
I'm not saying one in there.
I
think
Unix
can't get into the Hall of Fame, pretty sure.
I think probably the top kill record in this game definitely goes to Pyroflogos, who scored 1,000 kills in one battle.
Unfortunately, they're all pygmies.
My Air Queen actually got 1,000 in at least one battle, and like several hundred in another one. With
really?
That final battle with Algulod in that one Throne Province. Algulod eventually stole the Air Queen, but it was pretty crazy.
I didn't get to see that battle. Damn.
It was like Wrathful Sky.
The Fortress of Gol Amrod?
I hadn't even noticed. I stole the Queen of Thunder, but that was for the Weapon and Slave spell.
Yeah, you did.
Yes.
She got 885 kills in this battle. 1 second, I have to watch this battle.
Yeah.
It demonstrates very well, I think, why I was so afraid of Berytos. I mean, not just that one, but also the battle in the turn just previously, when I actually fought his big army with 80 Storm Demons or something like that. Go back to turn 8-8 if you want to see it. I will. When it happened. No, unless it was turn 8-7.
I'm looking at the this right now. Yeah, he cast obviously we've got globals up, and then I think he was did he cast Wrathful Skies, or what happened to give him freaking 800 kills? There's not 800 units on the field, nothing like.
No, it's pretty crazy.
No. That's the
Yeah,
huh. That's interesting.
Yeah. But no. When I eventually realized that I had to go and start actually, trying to get the objective to win, I realized I was doomed before I even went to war with Berytos, because I realized I had to go to war with Berytos and Hinnom in order to win. And essentially, I was forced to pull a Hitler and go fight a two-front war. And that was a terrible thing. I had to because I needed thrones, but
in fairness, we all kind of had to do that, I think.
Sorry. But,
no,
actually, I don't know. I mean, I didn't see you ever, you only fought Berytos at the late point of the game, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I went far out of my way to avoid fighting him before that point. I mean, you can see Giant's Rest. It's much further from my capital than Gold Emerald. And,
Fair enough.
Yeah, I was pretty sure that if we had fought, then I would probably have come out the loser, so I didn't really want to fight. So I basically just...
Yeah. I didn't want to fight either, and confusion, if you go back to turn 87 or maybe 88, you'll see why. Because that was the serious battle of Gold Emerald. And, those Storm Demons, 100 Storm Demons, 100 Lightning attacks in the first turn that you can't stop. That's a very nasty Alpha Strike.
Yes, it definitely is.
Not easy to stop. I lost a bunch of very valuable things that first opening salvo, and I probably could have taken steps to mitigate that somewhat, but that is exactly why I was always afraid of fighting Berytos, because even if I won, I don't think it would have been worth it in a straight fight, barring all other factors.
Yeah.
It was, what, Gold Emerald, you said? Yeah. Yeah, you lost a lot of mages in that battle.
Most of it in the first 1 or 2 rounds.
Although you did steal a milk cart.
Yeah. Famous.
Stealing milk carts seems to have been a theme.
I stole a second one, apparently, but he turned into a troop. And he was also blind. And, well, that's fixable for me, unlike for Berytos. I can fix things like that.
Right. But yeah, the honestly, the Storm Demon Alpha Strike is why is one of the most powerful qualities of Storm Demons. Just the fact that they can do that on round 1.
Yeah,
Oh god, this battle lags so badly. Sorry, GTS, what were you saying?
There was one battle with TNG. Basically, the first battle we had that was fairly serious on both sides. I didn't really bring that many demons with me, and they had a Kitsune Nature 3 caster who cast Howl, and basically the wolves ate all my mages. And the second time round, we had a big battle when I brought my reinforcement army. I had 20 storm demons with it, and the first round, a lightning bolt from one of the storm demons hit the Nature 3 mage and killed it instantly. It was my favorite moment of revenge. It was just beautiful.
Damn.
Yeah.
Also, wow. Confusion, go to TNG and right-click and press I to see the province history. Someone hit that capital with 7 storms at the very least.
Oh lord.
That was me. I cast the global to raise unrest so they can recruit their sacreds.
Yeah.
Very underhanded, because it's only got less than 20,000 people in it.
Yeah, I just destroyed I just was trying to crank up their unrest so they couldn't recruit more of their sacred warriors of the 5 elements.
Man, that's clever, but holy shit, that's nasty.
Well, to be honest, it's not even the warriors of the 5 elements that really matter. It's the fact that both of TNG's good mages come from their capital only.
Well, I mean, warriors of the 5 elements are shock resistant innately, and that will help a lot against Berytos.
It was
kind of for obvious reasons.
I was basically just trying to shut down their capital production, and so I used a bunch of those when we were at war.
Right.
It was a good tactic.
Interesting stuff. So let me ask, just in turn, Algulod, what would you have done differently in this game if you had started out, knowing what you know here at the end?
I'm not sure, honestly. I might have attacked Berytos a bit sooner, taken Gold Emerald, and probably won 10 turns earlier, like that. But aside from that, I may have gone to war with Bruce and Agatha in turn a bit too slowly. And that's a fairly common problem of mine. I tend to be a bit too passive. I think I mentioned this before, not in this recording, of course, but in various other times and places, that in one of your earlier videos in the series, Confusion, when you are describing the players, you say that GreatGrayShrike is probably the most dangerous of the players in this game.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with that, because I might be his equal, or maybe even his greater in skill, but I'm not very aggressive. I like playing SimCity almost, I guess. I think that's what they call it. But
I think I'm not sure which of us is like the absolute best, but I don't think that I'm much stronger than you, if I am at all. I think that you're
no, I agree. I kind of agree with that. Not to pat my own back, but more dangerous. Now that's not quite the same thing, and I think you are the more dangerous player because you are much more aggressive and pragmatic in that sense. Whereas I tend to expand against indies. I tend to watch out if anyone's going to attack me, and then I tend to settle down for a while if no one does that, even though I should be pushing my advantages and attacking weaker players or going up on stronger ones.
To be honest, I've sort of noticed that in your play, and that's sort of why I didn't attack you first. Like, I didn't really want to get in a war with you because I know that you're a strong player, and I didn't like from the early game on. Once we had a border, I was like, okay, I'll just leave algulod alone, and almost certainly they will not attack me, and I can just sort of leave that border alone and concentrate on other places because that's something that I have seen in your play a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I did nibble bits off of Roos when Roos was dying to Agatha.
Right.
And then after seeing how Agatha fought Roos, I figured eventually, yeah, I've been too passive, and I know that's a problem, and I should fix that. And Agatha those great arms look like delicious fodder for my Massacre. They are going to die. I'm going to eat them. And I'm going to tell Confusion to check that battle at Roos so I can show the glory of this Massacre. And of course, he didn't really focus on that, but no. Alas.
So, Shrike, how about you? What would you have done differently if you were coming back into this with the perfect knowledge?
I think that my first war with Tianchi was sort of disastrous in that I lost my first real battle, and the only reason I wasn't taken out of the game very early on was because of you on the other side of them. So I really should have probably done something differently there. I should have probably attacked a few turns later, and instead of spending so much blood slaves into soul contracts at that point, I should have hopefully been summoning demons and have a demon army ready to go right at the start. If I had done that, the Tianchi would probably have fallen like 12 turns faster at the very least, and things would have been very differently for me in the mid game.
Gotcha.
Players usually have a hard time massing demon summons in the early game, don't they? The queens are the only ones who can summon good demons right after the game.
I had enough brides. Yeah, I would be summoning them one by one, but storm demons summoned one by one is still worthwhile. Each one of them is not as good as an Air 2 mage that can't summon storm power.
Yeah, or
I mean, an Air 2 mage that can't cast on storm power is a very good air mage, but yeah, so
he can still throw lightning bolts.
For 7, like it's about a lightning bolt for every one of them, so it's basically like they're definitely worth the 7 blood slaves. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, absolutely. They've been nerfed since the Dawn 4, but they are still pretty much the best, barring perhaps Demon Knights, but that's very application dependent.
Right. Kronos.
Generics, of course.
Kronos, what would you have been doing differently if you were going into this knowing what was going to happen?
Oh God, the numbers. Anyway, first, napes are not peace treaties. Okay, you have to understand, this was probably not explained in GC's videos, but I was going nape heavy because I have a habit of liking, one of the things that I like to do as a player is I like to know exactly what war I'm going into. So I tend to have very strong napes with people. Berytos had a nape 5 as well as GC. Those are mistakes. 5 turns is just straight up too long. 3 might be a bit too long. Honestly, that's for one.
Personally, I can't.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, probably it's your turn to speak, but I'm just interjecting here. personally, I tend to kind of avoid an explicit non-aggression pact these days with more of a abstract understanding that we want to attack each other. I think, well, I never had a non-aggression pact with Berytos. I'm not sure I've ever had one with Mashaka or Rus either. I had one with Niflheim and with Yomi, though.
Yeah. But essentially, I like having names because I like making sure that I get a warning, and B, I like to control what wars. I like to be fighting one opponent or one against two, and me being in part of the two.
Right.
I still think my having a strong ally was a good ideal in the end, but the second thing is a bit of pretender design. Honestly, I'm still used to Dominions 4 where Luck 3 is just not worth it. And I would have had a stronger Bless. I would have had an actual godforsaken endgame plan, which I didn't. I was just relying on massive buffs. And admittingly, that carried me for a while, but I needed to find a more efficient chaff maker, which is weird because I thought I had chaff, but when I see thousands upon thousands of undead, and I kind of have to rethink what I can do to make more chaff and what have you. I now that I have a better idea of what the cataclysm actually entails, one of my problems is I went on expeditions to try to take the thrones before the actual cataclysms, which were far too tiny to work. They did, and were just swallowed up by Hinnom eventually as I made the attempt. They weren't small forces. I could have kept those back. I could have fought in other fronts or just tried to hold my thrones. Honestly, what made me try to avoid the cataclysm as hard as I could was I heard one thing on a chat from Great General Confusion. It causes an astral corruption, on crack astral corruptions. My thoughts were, I am not a blood nation. I am fighting two blood nations. If that happens, I lose right there. My thoughts became, I must win immediately. I must take the thrones.
That's fair.
Honestly, now that I know how it works, I even got a stupid thing up, and it doesn't matter if you're casting spells, they will still come. That's now that I know, I wouldn't have gone into really dumb expeditions to try to take a throne rush. Those were mistakes. I should have just took the thrones I took from Berytos originally, divert my forces to fighting Berytos. It might not have let me win, but at least I would have been holding out far better than I have. And then just hold what I had instead of, because I ended up spending it essentially fervorously, which is a mistake.
Right.
I mean, I understand I'm not as experienced as Algulod or GreatGrayShrike. I think I didn't do badly.
Oh, no.
You did
No.
really well.
You did very well.
Like, holy shit, you beat up Berytos as Ur. That, in Dawn 4, that would have been a bit like, I don't know, beating up the Ashen Empire as Shinoyama. You did really well.
Extremely well.
Yeah, but that's... But
like, I never considered you as a threat at all because you were next to Berytos. I assumed you would be destroyed almost immediately.
Well,
I mean,
eventually
it did get destroyed, but it took like
it took much more time.
Yeah.
But regardless, I still think I like to know what my mistakes were, and I'm glad I actually have a relatively good understanding of what my mistakes were. I should have been making worms that walk. I should have been spamming those like no tomorrow.
Yeah, because you had the gem income for it, because you had Mother Oak like pretty much all game.
Yeah.
And Pangea's capped for another 5 nature gems a turn and stuff.
6. Honestly, I should have. Oh God, I forgot. It's funny. I actually knew they existed. I just forgot they existed, which is embarrassing. But
I
yes,
kind of did the same thing myself.
Huh?
No, I kind of did the same thing myself with the worms. I stumbled a few very much later down the line. Of course, most of my native 3 needs were already met by these enchantresses, which I were. What on earth is that noise?
That's something my roommate is doing far in the background.
I thought it was a ghost.
Probably is. In any case.
Anyway, going back to the Cataclysm for a moment, I just want to interject that I don't really consider myself to have been playing a Blood Nation, to be entirely honest. Even this late on, I used Blood Slaves for Grigori and for a few Vampire Lords in the end, and I used the Blood Magic bit early on to get Seir, but on the whole, I relied a lot more on gems than I did Blood Slaves. That's why I went and did so much site searching and got such a high gem income. And when the Cataclysm hit, I was kind of crippled by it as well, much more than I expected to be. And I eventually just, instead of casting rituals or stuff like that, I just started cramming all these gems on mages so that he would use them in battle. And that helped a bit, but at the same time, I couldn't really summon or craft anything or cast anything with pots outside of battle. And that was pretty crippling.
Yeah, I had the same experience. One thing you mentioned there is you're summoning Seirs. I really, really, really wish I had a wasteland where I could actually summon Shadim and Seirs. I basically had no wasteland for basically the entire game, for almost like for the mid game where I would have actually liked to be able to summon Shadim, especially because it's not that they're that much better than Storm Demons. It's just that you can use like 1/3 of the number of brides in waiting instead of having to like summon each individual Storm Demon with one bride. But it's just like that. I got like no wastelands because of the way the map was set up. So it was sort of
A2 B2 casters don't grow in trees most nations.
And also, I had no Seir at all.
Well, I think there is one last person that didn't answer the given question. What would you have done different, General Confusion?
To be honest, I think my biggest problem was my early game. Like I said, I lost this game, or I realized I had lost this game probably in around turn 40 or so, which is when it started cropping up in my videos, definitely, when basically I was realizing I was just too small and too far behind in research compared to everybody else. What I should have done was, I should have taken an Awake Expander instead of my weird little rainbow were-hyena.
Honestly, you were unlucky with that, I'm sorry to say.
Yeah, but still, it was asking to get unlucky. And I should have focused my research more, because if I'd had Horde of Skeletons up by, say, turn 18 instead of turn, like, 26 when I actually got it, then I could have gone into early wars more quickly and more effectively.
Oh, that actually reminds me. I forgot to bring this up when you were asking what I would have done differently, but I really did not manage my research anywhere near as well as I could have. It took until around... this is probably visible in the graphs. It took me until around turn 50 to seriously start forging research boosters. Turn 50. I should have been doing that much, much earlier. And my research just kind of lagged behind where it needed to be through most of the game.
Yeah,
eventually even at the end there, I was still behind, despite having had a much higher income, despite having had as many forts and as many mages as everyone else. I kept throwing all of my mages into combat, and that helped, of course, but I really should have been making research boosters.
Yeah, and early research especially is very, very important, and early expansion is very, very important. So what I should have done, I mean, to answer the question, my answer would be I should have gotten big much, much more quickly. And because I wasn't... I'm going to blame this partially on not being familiar with early age Machaka, but I should have paid a little bit more attention when I was creating the game and worked to shore up my national weaknesses there a little bit better. But anyway, thanks y'all for coming and having this chat with me. I think it's been a useful and interesting experience, and hopefully people will be able to draw something out of it as they're watching.
Thanks.
I'm glad to have come. Thank you.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Well, see you around.
And I'm sure I'll see you in another game some of these times.
Probably.
Yep.
Maybe you'll die slow this time.
All right. Take care.
All right.
Take care.
Bye.
Yeah, the same here.